The invisible assistant. The soft glow of dawn had yet to break over the city skyline when Prisha Sharma unlocked the glass doors of Reed Architecture and Design. At 27, she moved through the pristine lobby with practiced efficiency, her simple navy dress a stark contrast to the opulent marble and steel surrounding her. As executive assistant to the firm's partners, Prisha was the invisible force that kept the prestigious firm running smoothly, though few acknowledged her contributions. "Morning, Ms. Sharma," called the security guard as she passed. "Early as always." Prisha offered a warm smile. "The Hammond proposal needs final revisions before the meeting. Someone has to make sure everything's perfect." What she didn't add was that she'd stayed up until midnight drafting sections of the proposal herself. Though officially just an assistant, Prisha had completed night courses in architectural design and business management over the past 3 years. Not that anyone in the executive suite had noticed. As she prepared the conference room, memories of Vikram Joshi floated unbidden into her mind. They had started at Reed together 4 years ago. She as a receptionist, he as a junior architect with dreams as tall as the skyscrapers he hoped to design. Their romance had blossomed over late nights and shared ambitions, until Vikram received an offer from a rival firm with promises of faster advancement. "You're wasting your potential here, Pry," he'd told her the night before he left. "You could be so much more if you weren't so comfortable staying invisible." "There's dignity in doing your job well, regardless of the title," she'd countered. Vikram had just shaken his head. "That's why we're different. I want to build a legacy. You're content just helping others build theirs." Within weeks, their relationship had crumbled like poorly mixed concrete. The last she'd heard, Vikram was dating Sophia Bennett, daughter of his new firm's principal architect. Prisha shook away the thoughts as she meticulously arranged documents around the conference table. She didn't regret staying at Reed. Despite her modest position, she'd saved enough to support her younger brother through engineering school and help her parents renovate their small home in the suburbs. There was value in that kind of stability, even if it didn't come with a corner office. "You're here early again." The deep voice startled her. Nathan Reed, the firm's reclusive owner and principal architect, stood in the doorway. At 34, he was younger than most in his position, having inherited the firm after his father's death 5 years ago. Despite his reputation for brilliance, Nathan remained an enigma to most employees, reserved, intensely private, and rarely seen outside client meetings or his top-floor office. "Mr. Reed," Prisha straightened. "I wanted to ensure everything was ready for the Hammond presentation." Nathan nodded, his expression thoughtful. Unlike other executives who looked through her, his gaze was attentive. "I noticed your suggestions in the margin notes. The rooftop garden integration. That was your idea, wasn't it?" Prisha felt her cheeks warm. "I just thought with their commitment to sustainability." "It's brilliant," he said simply. The client specifically mentioned it as a highlight. He paused, studying her with those perceptive eyes. "You have an architectural background?" "Just night courses," she admitted. "Nothing formal like a degree?" A subtle smile softened his features. "Sometimes the most innovative ideas come from unexpected places. You see things differently." Before Prisha could respond, Nathan's phone buzzed. "The Hammond presentation is moved up to 9. Can you notify the team?" Prisha nodded, surprised by the brief interaction. As Nathan turned to leave, he added, "And Ms. Sharma, add your name to the contributors list on the proposal. Credit where it's due." After he departed, Prisha stood motionless in the empty conference room. 4 years of invisibility, and suddenly she had been seen. It was a small recognition, but it sent a ripple of warmth through her chest. Perhaps Vikram had been wrong about her potential after all. Little did she know that this quiet morning marked the beginning of a transformation that would challenge everything she thought she knew about worth, recognition, and the true measure of success in a world that too often confused price with value. Whispers and Wounds, the annual Reed Architecture and Design Charity Gala, transformed the firm's austere headquarters into a shimmering display of wealth and influence. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across the atrium as Prisha navigated, between clusters of clients and industry leaders, clipboard in hand, ensuring the evening progressed flawlessly. "The Singapore developers are by the east window," she murmured to Diane Winters, the firm's marketing director. "They mentioned interest in the lakefront project." Diane nodded appreciatively. "What would we do without you, Prisha? You're practically running this firm from behind the scenes." The compliment was sincere but did little to settle the knot in Prisha's stomach. She'd spent weeks organizing this event, yet still felt like an outsider looking in, especially in her modest black dress. The nicest she owned, but clearly not. Designer like those adorning the firm's female architects and executives. "Is Nathan making an appearance tonight?" Diane asked, scanning the room for the elusive owner. Mr. Reed confirmed he would attend briefly. Prisha replied. Nathan had been particularly involved in planning this year's gala, which supported urban development in underprivileged neighborhoods. It was one of the few causes that seemed to draw him out of his characteristic reserve. As Prisha turned to check on the catering staff, a familiar laugh cut through the ambient noise. Her body tensed before her mind could even process why. Then she saw him. Vikram Joshi, looking impeccably polished in a tailored suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. On his arm was Sophia Bennett, draped in silk and diamonds, her perfect smile gleaming as brightly as her jewelry. Prisha quickly averted her gaze, hoping to slip away unnoticed, but Vikram's voice rang out across the room. "Prisha, still keeping the ship afloat at Reed?" She turned slowly, professional smile firmly in place. "Vikram, lovely to see you. I didn't realize Bennett and Associates would be attending tonight. When it comes to industry events, we're always at the top of the guest list," Sophia interjected with practiced charm. "Though I'm surprised to see Reed hosting something this ambitious. Father says they've been struggling to retain clients since the Westwood Tower fiasco." Prisha felt a flush of defensiveness. The Westwood project had encountered complications, but the team had resolved them brilliantly. "Actually, our client portfolio has expanded by 20% this quarter. The Westwood innovations actually attracted new interest." Vikram's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Always the loyal employee, though I'm surprised you're still." He gestured vaguely at her clipboard. "In the same position? It's been what, 4 years now?" "Some of us value stability," Prisha replied evenly, though each word stung like acid on her tongue. "Stability." Vikram chuckled, the sound hollow and performative. "Is that what we're calling it now? Sophia just made junior partner after 18 months. That's the difference between ambition and, well, complacency." Sophia examined Prisha with the detached interest of someone studying an unusual insect. "Your dress is cute. Vintage?" "Just classic," Prisha replied, feeling suddenly aware of every thread in the garment she'd once been proud of. "Prisha coordinates all our major events," came a quiet voice from behind them. Nathan Reed had approached, silently, his presence commanding immediate attention despite his understated demeanor. Her contributions to the firm extend far beyond what her title suggests. Vikram immediately shifted into networking mode. "Mr. Reed, an honor to finally meet you. Vikram Joshi, senior architect at Bennett and Associates. Your reputation precedes you." Nathan barely acknowledged the extended hand. "As does yours, Mr. Joshi." His tone revealed nothing, but Prisha noticed the slight tension in his jaw. "I believe the Halston development had some structural issues recently. Interesting design choice on the cantilevers." Color drained from Vikram's face. The Halston project had indeed faced criticism for prioritizing aesthetics over functionality, a cardinal sin in Nathan's design philosophy. "Minor adjustments," Vikram recovered quickly. "Innovation sometimes requires iteration." "Indeed," Nathan replied coolly. "Prisha, I need your input on the presentation timing. Would you excuse us?" Without waiting for a response, he guided her away with a gentle hand at her elbow. Once they were out of earshot, Prisha exhaled shakily. "Thank you for the rescue." Nathan's expression softened minutely. "No rescue necessary. You were handling them admirably, though I'm not sure how you maintained your composure with that condescending display." "Practice," Prisha admitted. surprised by his perception. Vikram and I have history. Understanding dawned in Nathan's eyes. The ex you mentioned during the Parker project planning. Prisha blinked in surprise. She'd made one passing reference to a previous relationship during a late-night preparation session months ago. The fact that Nathan remembered stunned her. "You're too valuable to waste time on people who can't recognize quality," he said simply. Then, with unexpected vulnerability, he added, "The presentation? I'm actually nervous about it." "Not a coincidence," came Nathan's voice as he joined them. "Simply my failure to look beyond conventional credentials earlier. A mistake many firms make." His gaze settled meaningfully on Vikram, though I understand Bennett and Associates has perfected a different approach to advancement. Vikram's confidence faltered. "I don't know what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything," Nathan replied evenly. "Just acknowledging that we all make our choices. Prisha chose integrity and genuine passion for architecture. It appears you chose differently." Before Vikram could respond, Sophia appeared, immediately assessing the tension. "Darling, Daddy's looking for you. The Westside developers want to discuss your proposal." As they walked away, Prisha heard Sophia hiss, "Stop obsessing over your ex. It's embarrassing." Nathan's hand found Prisha's. "Regrets?" he asked quietly. Prisha watched Vikram retreat, ambitious, talented, but ultimately hollow in his pursuit of status above substance. Then she looked at Nathan, who had seen her value when she was invisible to others, yet had waited for her to recognize it herself before offering more. "Not one," she replied truthfully. "Structures built to last." The transformation of Reed architecture and design over the following year reflected the evolution of its leadership. Under Prisha and Nathan's collaborative influence, the firm expanded its portfolio to include both prestigious commercial projects and innovative community developments. Their dual approach, marrying Nathan's technical brilliance with Prisha's human-centered design philosophy, attracted clients seeking both profit and purpose. On a crisp autumn morning, Prisha stood in the newly completed community center wing of the Westmore Street building, watching students from her weekend program explore the space that would become their design studio. The teenagers moved through the room with a sense of ownership and possibility that brought tears to her eyes. "Ms. Prisha, is this really all for us?" Darnell asked, now 15 and seriously considering an architectural apprenticeship after graduation. "All for you," she confirmed, "and for every student who comes after you." Farah joined her by the windows overlooking the courtyard where Nathan was discussing landscaping plans with community members. "You've both built something remarkable here," she observed. "And not just the building," Prisha smiled. "It's been a journey." "Speaking of journeys," Farah nudged her playfully, "have you two set a date yet? The suspense is killing me." The diamond ring on Prisha's left hand caught the morning light. Nathan had proposed 3 weeks earlier, not with grand gestures but with simple truth. They had built a foundation together that could weather any storm. "Spring," Prisha answered. "Small ceremony right here in this building." "Perfect," Farah approved. "Though I'm still pushing for at least one ridiculous bridesmaid dress. It's tradition." Their laughter was interrupted by Prisha's phone. "It's the Sullivan Foundation," she said, recognizing the number. "They're announcing the Urban Design Excellence finalists today." Farah squeezed her arm encouragingly as Prisha answered. The conversation was brief, but when she hung up, her radiant smile told the story before her words could. "We're finalists," she breathed. "The Westmore Street project is a finalist for the National Award." They hurried outside to share the news with Nathan, who received it with characteristic quiet joy, pulling Prisha into an embrace that spoke volumes more than exuberant celebration ever could. That evening, the three of them celebrated over dinner at Nathan and Prisha's apartment, a spacious loft in the Westmore building where they had chosen to live, embodying their commitment to the community they served. "The Sullivan Foundation Gala is next month," Farah mentioned as they finished dessert. "Black tie, major press coverage. Win or lose, it's huge exposure for the firm. And for the community integration model," Nathan added, "that's what matters most. Showing the industry there's another way to approach urban development." Prisha nodded, though a shadow crossed her features. "Bennett and Associates is also a finalist for their waterfront tower." Nathan studied her expression. "Does that concern you?" "No. she said after a moment's reflection. Not anymore. The Sullivan Foundation Gala lived up to its reputation for grandeur. Industry leaders filled the historic ballroom, conversations humming with speculation about the prestigious award recipients. Prisha, elegant in a deep blue gown, moved through the crowd with Nathan, greeting colleagues and competitors alike with genuine warmth. Inevitably, they encountered Vikram and Sophia near the champagne fountain. A year had changed them too. Sophia's diamond engagement ring matched the hardness in her smile, while Vikram's confident posture couldn't quite mask the strain around his eyes. Congratulations on the nomination, Prisha offered sincerely. Likewise, Vikram replied, his gaze flicking between her and Nathan, though our projects could hardly be more different. Luxury versus affordable. Different priorities, Nathan acknowledged without judgment. Both have their place. Sophia's smile tightened. Daddy says the committee always includes a community project as a finalist for optics. The commercial developments are what actually win. Before the conversation could sour further, the announcement chime signaled guests to take their seats for the awards presentation. As they moved toward their tables, Vikram touched Prisha's arm briefly. For what it's worth, he said quietly. Your work is impressive. You've proven me wrong. The simple admission, perhaps the closest thing to an apology his pride would allow, surprised her. Thank you, Vikram. I hope you find what you're looking for. Something in his expression suggested he understood her meaning went beyond career success. With a small nod, he rejoined Sophia, who was already networking with potential clients. The Sullivan Foundation president took the stage, delivering an impassioned speech about architecture's power to shape human experience, before announcing the winners in various categories. When the Urban Design Excellence Award finally arrived, the room fell expectantly silent. This year's recipient demonstrated exceptional innovation in repurposing existing structures, community engagement throughout the design process, and sustainable practices that set new standards for the industry, the president announced. The Sullivan Foundation is proud to present this award to the Westmore Street Community Development by Reed Architecture and Design. The applause was thunderous as Prisha and Nathan made their way to the stage, hands clasped. From the podium, Nathan spoke briefly about architectural responsibility before turning to Prisha. The soul of this project, and the transformation of our firm, belongs to Prisha Sharma, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the hushed room. She reminded us that the true measure of successful architecture isn't just in what we build, but in whose lives we improve through what we build. Prisha stepped forward, momentarily overwhelmed by the journey that had brought her here. In the audience, she could see Farah beaming proudly, the students from her program who had been invited as special guests, and even Vikram, whose expression held a complex mixture of emotions. True architecture is about creating foundations, she began. Not just of steel and concrete, but of opportunity and dignity. The Westmore Project taught us that when we build with and for community, we all become stronger. Later, as they displayed their award in the Westmore Building's community room, rather than the corporate offices, Prisha reflected on the circuitous path that had led her here. The pain of Vikram's rejection had once seemed insurmountable. Now it appeared as merely a necessary redirection toward her true purpose. Any regrets? Nathan asked, echoing his question from a year earlier as they stood in the quiet room. Prisha thought about the invisibility she had once accepted, the validation she had once craved from those who couldn't see her true value. She thought about the journey from receptionist to designer, from overlooked to essential, from uncertain to confident in her own worth. None, she answered, reaching for his hand. Some structures aren't built to last. They teach us how to build better next time. Outside the windows, lights glowed warmly in apartments where families now lived affordably in beautifully designed spaces. Below in the courtyard, community gardens flourished where there had once been only concrete. And here beside her stood a partner who valued her not for appearance or status, but for the quality of her vision and the strength of her convictions. Prisha Sharma had finally discovered what Vikram never understood, that true worth wasn't measured by titles or accolades, but by the lives you touched and the spaces you created where others could thrive. In that knowledge, she had built a foundation that would endure long after the applause faded and the spotlight moved on. A foundation of purpose, integrity, and love that no external validation could ever match. I should tell you, Nathan said, his voice low. I've been looking for the right moment to offer you a formal design position at the firm. Your talent is wasted in administration, but I wanted to be sure you didn't think it was because he faltered uncharacteristically. Because you what? Prisha asked, barely breathing. Instead of answering, Nathan reached out slowly, giving her every opportunity to step away. When she didn't move, his fingers gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. Because I find myself thinking about you in ways that have nothing to do with architecture, he finally said. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty he had created, beauty that reflected values they shared, Prisha made a decision. She closed the distance between them, her hand coming to rest lightly on his chest. Maybe, she whispered, we should explore those thoughts. His kiss was tentative at first, then deepened with a certainty that made her knees weak. When they finally broke apart, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that since you corrected my calculations on the Hammond project, he admitted with a soft laugh. Prisha smiled. That was 6 months ago. I'm patient when something matters, he replied simply. As afternoon light streamed through the skylights, casting them both in a golden glow, Prisha realized that for the first time since Vikram, she felt truly seen. Not for what she appeared to be, but for who she was at her core. And unlike the validation she had sought in her previous relationship, this recognition felt not like a judgment passed, but like coming home. The foundation revealed. 3 months passed with the gentle urgency of new love carefully tended. Prisha and Nathan kept their relationship private by mutual agreement, not from shame, but from a shared desire to protect something precious from outside scrutiny. At work, they maintained professional boundaries, though observant colleagues noticed subtle changes, the way Nathan's expression softened when Prisha entered a room, how her suggestions in meetings now came without hesitation. You realize everyone knows something's different, Farah told them over dinner at Nathan's loft one evening. Diana from accounting asked if Nathan was ill because he actually smiled in the elevator. Nathan rolled his eyes while Prisha laughed. We're not hiding it, she clarified. We're just not announcing it. Well, you might need to reconsider that strategy, Farah said, sliding a glossy invitation across the table. The National Architecture Innovation Summit next week. Every major firm will be there, including Bennett and Associates. Prisha's smile faltered slightly. Vikram will be there. With Sophia Bennett undoubtedly, Nathan added, his hand finding Prisha's under the table. Does that concern you? She considered the question honestly. Not for the reasons you might think. I'm not embarrassed about us. I just don't want our relationship overshadowing what I've earned professionally. Nathan nodded, understanding immediately. The design position promotion goes public next week. Everyone will know it happened before we began seeing each other. What? He didn't say what didn't need saying was that Prisha had already proven her worth repeatedly in the months since taking on design responsibilities. Her community-centered approach had won over 3 clients who specifically requested her involvement in their projects. I'm ready, she decided, for all of it. The summit venue glittered with architectural displays and industry elite when Prisha arrived the following week. She wore a simple but elegant emerald dress, purchased with her first design commission bonus, and carried herself with newfound confidence. Nathan would arrive separately for the keynote address, where Reed Architecture would unveil its groundbreaking community-integrated design approach. She was examining a sustainable materials exhibit when a familiar voice cut through the ambient conversation. Prisha Sharma, still with Reed, I see. Vikram stood before her, champagne in hand, Sophia Bennett attached to his arm like an expensive accessory. They made a striking couple, both polished to perfection, both watching her with the slightly condescending curiosity reserved for former acquaintances who hadn't quite measured up. Still with Reed, Prisha confirmed pleasantly. Though in a different capacity now, Sophia's perfectly shaped eyebrows raised slightly. Oh, did they finally promote you to office manager? Actually, I'm leading the firm's new community integration design division, Prisha replied evenly. We're presenting our first major urban renewal project tonight. Vikram's surprise was visible before he masked it with a thin smile. Community projects, charming, though hardly where the real architectural prestige lies. Bennett's Luxury Developments division, which I head now, just secured the waterfront tower contract. Congratulations. Prisha said sincerely. That's a significant achievement. It is, Sophia interjected. Daddy says it's the fastest promotion in company history. She examined Prisha with mock concern. Though I suppose community projects are noble, if you prefer modest scale and limited budgets. Prisha might once have shrunk from such thinly veiled condescension. Now she merely smiled. There's dignity in work that serves many, not just the few who can afford luxury. Still the idealist, Vikram chuckled, though something in his expression suggested uncertainty. The Prisha before him was not the same woman he had left behind. She stood taller, spoke with quiet authority, met his gaze without hesitation. Some things don't change, she acknowledged. Excuse me, I need to prepare for our presentation. As she turned to leave, Vikram called after her, loud enough for nearby attendees to hear. Don't tell me Reed is letting you present. Things must be desperate indeed if they're putting the former receptionist on stage. Several heads turned. Prisha stopped, feeling a familiar flush of embarrassment before something else replaced it. Certainty in her own worth. She turned back slowly. Former receptionist. Current lead designer. The journey matters, Vikram. It shapes how we see the world and the spaces we create within it. Before he could respond, the summit director approached. Ms. Sharma, Mr. Reed is asking for you backstage. The keynote presentation begins in 20 minutes. Vikram's expression flickered between confusion and suspicion. You're working directly with Nathan Reed now? I find that hard to believe. Many things are hard to believe until they happen, Prisha replied simply, following the director away. Backstage, Nathan was reviewing presentation notes. He looked up when she entered, his professional demeanor momentarily softening. Everything all right? I just ran into Vikram and Sophia, she explained. Nathan's jaw tightened. And I realized something. Prisha straightened her shoulders. I used to measure my worth through his eyes. Now I don't need anyone's validation but my own. The pride in Nathan's expression warmed her from within. Ready to change how the industry thinks about community-centered design? Ready, she confirmed. The auditorium fell silent as Nathan took the stage. His presentation on architectural responsibility captured the audience from his first words. When he introduced Reed Architecture's revolutionary approach to urban spaces, the crowd leaned forward in collective interest. Our next speaker, Nathan announced, is the visionary behind our community integration methodology. Her insight has transformed not just our projects but our entire design philosophy. Prisha walked onto the stage with poised confidence, aware of Vikram and Sophia's stunned expressions in the third row. For the next 15 minutes, she articulated a vision of architecture that served communities while remaining commercially viable, illustrated by the Westmore Street project that she and Nathan had completed together. The applause that followed her presentation was enthusiastic and genuine. As Nathan rejoined her on stage for questions, a prominent industry journalist asked about their collaborative process. Ms. Sharma brings perspective that traditional architectural education often overlooks, Nathan explained. Her understanding of how spaces function for everyday people has been invaluable. And how long has she been part of your design team? The journalist pressed. Nathan glanced at Prisha, a silent question in his eyes. She nodded slightly. Officially 3 months, he answered, though her contributions to Reed Architecture extend back years. What began as recognition of exceptional talent has evolved into something more personal. Ms. Sharma is both my colleague and my partner in life. A murmur rippled through the audience. In the third row, Vikram's expression shifted from disbelief to calculation. Beside him, Sophia whispered something that made him frown. After the presentation, during the reception, Prisha found herself surrounded by industry leaders interested in her perspective. Nathan remained nearby, occasionally joining conversations but primarily allowing her moment to shine independently. Eventually, Vikram approached alone, his expression carefully neutral. Impressive presentation, he conceded, and quite the revelation about you and Reed. How long has that been going on? The insinuation in his tone was unmistakable. Our relationship began after my promotion, Prisha stated firmly. Not that it's any of your business. Vikram's smile didn't reach his eyes. Just curious. It's a remarkable coincidence that Reed suddenly discovered your talent after years of you working as support staff. This confession, from Nathan Reed, whose confidence never wavered in client meetings, momentarily displaced her discomfort. "You'll be brilliant. The community housing initiative is inspired." He studied her face. Would you mind standing in my sightline during the speech? Sometimes it helps to focus on someone who understands the vision." The request was so unexpected that Prisha could only nod. As Nathan moved toward the stage, she noticed Vikram watching their interaction with narrowed eyes. The evening progressed, and Prisha maintained her professional demeanor, even as she felt Vikram's scrutiny following her. During Nathan's speech about accessible urban design, she stood where he could see her, and their eyes met several times as he articulated a passion for community-centered architecture that few knew he possessed. Later, as guests began departing, Vikram cornered her near the coat check. "Quite friendly with the boss, aren't we?" His voice dripped with insinuation. "Now I understand why you've stayed all this time. Sleeping your way to security, if not success?" The accusation landed like a physical blow. Before Prisha could respond, Sophia appeared at Vikram's side, sliding her arm possessively through his. "Darling, father wants us to join him for drinks with the investors." She smiled thinly at Prisha. "Don't work too late cleaning up. Though I suppose someone has to handle the maintenance tasks." As they walked away, Prisha's hands trembled slightly, not from humiliation but from anger, at Vikram's assumptions, at herself for still caring what he thought, and at a world that so often confused worth with wealth. What she didn't see was Nathan Reed watching the exchange from across the room, his typically impassive expression replaced by something much more resolute. Blueprints of the heart. The Saturday morning sunshine streamed through the windows of the Riverdale Community Center, casting warm rectangles of light across the worn wooden floor. Prisha adjusted her simple ponytail before addressing the circle of teenagers seated before her. "Architecture isn't just about designing beautiful buildings," she explained, sketching a quick diagram on the whiteboard. "It's about creating spaces where people can thrive, where life happens." For the past 18 months, Prisha had volunteered every weekend at this community center, in one of the city's struggling neighborhoods. Here, far from the gleaming glass towers of the financial district, she taught basic architectural concepts and design thinking to local youth, skills that could open doors to futures they might not otherwise imagine. "Ms. Prisha, is this support beam placement right?" asked Darnell, a bright 14-year-old whose model bridge had collapsed during last week's session. Prisha crouched beside him, examining his revised design. "Much better. You've created redundancy in the load-bearing elements. That's exactly what real architects do." "Like Mr. Reed does with his buildings?" Darnell asked. Prisha smiled, still surprised by the connection. "Yes, very much like that." It had been pure coincidence or perhaps fate that had brought her here initially. After a particularly difficult day at work following Vikram's departure, Prisha had been seeking purpose beyond her job. She'd stumbled upon a flyer requesting volunteers and felt immediately drawn to the opportunity. Only months later did she discover the center's primary benefactor, the Reed Foundation, established by Nathan's late mother, Elaine Reed. The foundation continued under the direction of Nathan's sister, Farah Reed, who had welcomed Prisha's involvement with open arms. "Earth to Prisha," came an amused voice. Farah Reed stood in the doorway, her casual demeanor a stark contrast to her brother's reserved nature. Where Nathan was quiet intensity, Farah was warmth and easy laughter. "The kids are waiting for snack break and you're staring into space." "Sorry," Prisha shook herself from her reverie. "Everyone take 15 minutes, then we'll review your neighborhood redesign concepts." As the teenagers scattered toward the refreshment table, Farah approached, dark eyes twinkling. At 32, she shared her brother's striking features but wore them with an openness Nathan rarely displayed. "Nathan's stopping by today," Farah mentioned casually, though her sideways glance at Prisha was anything but casual. "Said he wanted to see how the community design workshop was progressing." Prisha busied herself organizing papers. "That's nice. The students would benefit from his expertise." Farah hummed knowingly. "Just his expertise they'd benefit from? Nothing to do with a certain executive assistant he mentions in every other conversation?" Heat crept up Prisha's neck. "He talks about me? Only your brilliant design suggestions, your organizational skills, your commitment to the community center." Farah ticked off on her fingers. "My brother, who typically communicates in architectural jargon and monosyllables, suddenly becomes positively verbose when your name comes up. "We work together," Prisha said carefully. "He's my boss." "And I'm the Queen of England," Farah retorted. "Listen, I've watched Nathan retreat further into himself since our parents died. He pours everything into the firm. That building on Westmore Street, he's renovating himself, and this center. That's it. No relationships, few friends. Until recently." Before Prisha could respond, the center's front door opened and Nathan himself entered, dressed more casually than she'd ever seen him at the office. Dark jeans and a simple gray Henley that somehow made him look both more approachable and more handsome. His eyes found hers immediately across the room, and the small smile that touched his lips sent an unexpected flutter through her chest. "Speak of the devil," Farah murmured. "I'll go make sure the kids don't consume their weight in cookies." Nathan crossed to where Prisha stood, his gaze taking in the classroom setup. "This looks impressive." Farah mentioned the neighborhood redesign project you've initiated. "The students are really engaged," Prisha replied, oddly nervous in this context where the hierarchical boundaries of the office didn't apply. "They have insights about their community that professional architects would miss." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "That's always been the problem with urban renewal. Too many decisions made by people who never live with the consequences." He hesitated, then added, "I've been meaning to thank you." "For what?" "Farah says the program attendance has doubled since you started teaching. These kids," his voice softened. "This center was my mother's passion project. Seeing it thrive matters to me." "Your mother sounds like she was an extraordinary woman." A shadow of grief passed across Nathan's features. "She was. She believed architecture should serve people, not the other way around." He glanced toward the students, then back to Prisha. "Like you do." The simple comparison touched Prisha deeply. She'd never met Elaine Reed, but from everything she'd heard, the comparison was the highest compliment Nathan could offer. "Would you?" Nathan seemed suddenly uncertain, so unlike his confident professional persona. "Would you be interested in seeing the Westmore Street building? The renovation is nearly complete. I'd value your perspective." The invitation felt significant, though Prisha couldn't articulate exactly why. "I'd like that." An hour later, after the workshop concluded, they walked together through the historic district where a century-old former factory stood surrounded by scaffolding. The imposing brick structure had been abandoned for decades before Nathan purchased it 2 years ago. "This is your mysterious personal project?" Prisha asked as he unlocked the heavy front door. "The one that keeps you working late on Thursdays?" Nathan looked surprised. "You noticed my schedule." "It's part of my job to know where everyone is," she replied, though they both recognized it wasn't the complete truth. Inside, Prisha gasped softly. What had once been an industrial space had been transformed into something miraculous. An atrium flooded with natural light from newly installed skylights. Original brick walls preserved but softened by wooden elements and strategically placed greenery. "Nathan, this is beautiful," she breathed, turning slowly to take it all in. "What is it going to be?" "Mixed use," he explained, watching her reaction closely. "Affordable apartments upstairs, community spaces down here, including a permanent design workshop for neighborhood youth who complete your program at the center." Prisha turned to him in astonishment. "You're building this for the community center kids?" "Partially," he admitted, "but also because spaces like this shouldn't just be for the wealthy. Good design should be accessible to everyone." He paused, then added quietly, "That's something you helped me remember." "Me?" Prisha's voice was barely audible. Nathan stepped closer. "You see value where others don't. In buildings, in communities, in people." His eyes held hers. "The night of the gala with your ex-boyfriend. I heard what he said to you." Prisha winced, remembering Vikram's insinuations. "It doesn't matter." "It does," Nathan insisted gently. "Because he couldn't be more wrong about you. You don't stay at Reed out of complacency or lack of ambition. You stay because you care about the work, about doing things right." "That's rare, Prisha." Something in the way he said her name made her heart quicken. They stood close now, the space between them charged with unspoken possibilities.